Hello, my name is Elisa Acob. I will be discussing the country of Argentina, so alcohol, drugs, and addictions, so individuals' behaviors, patterns, and also attitudes towards these topics. And this is specifically for Public Health 147, Professor Bick, for fall 2023. Starting with the culture of alcohol consumption and drug use behavior. So, consuming alcohol is actually very prevalent amongst people in Argentina. So, some of the common reasons include social circle gatherings, events. There's also traditions such as religion and etc. To expand more on this idea, one example is the idea of sporting events. One of the most popular sports in Argentina is soccer. So that is one reason why many individuals may want to engage in alcohol to have a good time, especially with those around them while watching a soccer game. In addition, something very important to note is that Argentina is actually the sixth largest producer of wine, and it is one of the main countries that produces it within the Southern Hemisphere. So, amongst all the other countries within the Southern Hemisphere, um, Argentina is the one that produces the most wine. In addition to that, a study has shown that actually 8 out of 10 Argentinians drink wine at home. And if you think about that, that is quite a large population of individuals that are just drinking wine alone. In addition, tobacco is the second most used drug in Argentina. And this is a very important fact to note for our later slides. And it is also the second consumer of tobacco, with the first being Chile. So that does mean that Argentina does engage in tobacco use, whether it is traditional cigarettes or if it is also e-cigarettes. Now, I'll be talking about the smoking habits, alcohol consumption, drug use habits, and other addictive habits within Argentinians. So, something very important to know is that the legal age to purchase alcohol is actually 18, and the legal age for many countries is actually 18. And this allows college students to engage in binge drinking because once they turn 18, they're already in college, they have more exposure to maybe socials, mixers, parties, where there might be individuals engaging in high risk drinking behavior. In addition, within the study, around 40% of college students reported weekly consumption. So many would have around 5 or more drinks per event. And in addition to that, we are not sure like if these individuals are drinking in such a high risk way where they're taking more than one standard drink per hour, but it is something to cite because it does lead on to the behavior of binge drinking. In addition, in another study, perceived risk of alcohol and other drugs in Argentina, it found that 7.8% of Argentinian teenagers ages 13 to 18 in this study reported alcohol, tobacco, and marijuana use. Now, this is very important to note in our next slide because there is a rise of usage of alcohol and other drugs amongst teenagers and amongst the youth in general. And in addition to that study, around 35 to 50%, that's nearly half of the participants within this study, reported a heavy episodic drinking event. So, what this describes is basically binge drinking. Are they drinking more than one standard drink per hour? Are they drinking in a very high risk way? Moving on to the risk factors as to why many Argentinian teenagers, the youth, why are they engaging in these specific behaviors such as consuming alcohol or using tobacco? One main factor is parenting and peer influence. So, something very important to know is the social ecological model, which describes how an individual lived environment, who they interact with, their relationships, the peers around them, how that can influence the behaviors that they might do. So, for example, low parental support, so maybe a parent who's not checking in on their child or who is not supporting the child during their academic life as well could increase the risk of drinking alcohol. And in addition to that, exposure to alcohol at a very early age also increases the risk of drinking alcohol. And we'll talk about exposures in the next few points. But for socioeconomic status, it has shown that like health education, when individuals are not really exposed to health education at an early age, it can kind of shape whether or not they decide to drink alcohol. So this can shape their drinking attitudes. For example, maybe an individual who has been exposed or has taken a health education class on alcohol and other drugs at an early age might be at a lower risk of drinking alcohol and also engage in like binge drinking. So lower risk at engaging in drinking alcohol in very dangerous ways. And then in addition to that, there's also media and marketing. So there's direct advertising such as television, movies, YouTube, social media, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. There are many celebrities or maybe even influencers. There's a rise of influencers amongst the youth that might expose teenagers and also college students to maybe bad drinking behaviors or also just alcohol in general, or also tobacco use such as e-cigarettes, because that is one of the most prevalent used um, smoking method amongst the youth. Moving on to the connections between substance use disorder slash addictive behavior and health issues slash illness in Argentina. Just starting with disorder slash addictive behaviors. A study has shown that adolescents who were 16 and older began to drink at a very significantly young age. And like what we mentioned before, that could be because of the exposure to alcohol and other drugs at an early age because of social media, marketing, movies, television, entertainment in general. In addition, maybe in like family get-togethers, if they have, for example, an older cousin that might give them a drink, then they are more likely to drink in the future. In addition to that, within the study, those who consume alcohol are more likely to engage in other drugs, such as cannabis. So there has been many studies that have been linking alcohol and cannabis together. So when one engages in alcohol in a very high risk way, more than likely they will also engage in the use of cannabis, such as using it in the same time, which also means getting crossed. And then some health issues slash illness include chronic illnesses such as lung cancer because of tobacco use, liver cancer because of consuming alcohol, especially in a very addictive manner. They've also seen the rise of obesity and hypertension and etc. And then this is also very important that around 81% of deaths in Argentina are due to chronic illness. So many of these chronic illnesses might actually be caused or linked to alcohol and other drugs, especially addictive behaviors. Now, some solutions from a public health perspective from the primary to tertiary level. Primary level regulating the price of alcohol and tobacco. As of right now in Argentina, there is no tax on alcohol. And for example, in the United States, there is a tax on alcohol, and there have been many studies that have shown that many individuals, or there has been like a decrease of alcohol addiction because of the tax. In addition, there's the secondary level, which is community health outreach. So the rise of community health workers, especially in Argentina, is very important because they could teach workshops or also health education classes, specifically on alcohol and other drugs. For example, how to drink safely, how to make sure that you're pacing yourself, and also just making sure to understand what alcohol and other drugs are actually doing to your body. What are they doing physiologically? And I think it's very important to note this at a very young age because we have seen in research or in the previous slides that many teenagers and youth have become addicted at a early age. And then lastly, tertiary level parenting practices, going back to the social ecological model, just knowing how the parent influences and interacts with their child, especially on the topics of alcohol and other drugs, can make can shape their attitudes on those topics. So for example, effective communication, making sure the parents um, talk to their children if they find out if they're using substances, and also alcohol and other drugs workshops, just making sure to educate parents on how to teach their children health behavior, making sure that they don't drink before they're 18 and making sure they wait so that they can prevent those addictions early on. And it will also help with monitoring for substance abuse. Now that would be all for the presentation. This is all the references that I used, and I just want to say thank you for listening.